Hello and welcome to Old Faithful with your host Matt Trask. My thanks to Perfect Wave Production. Scott Gooch, my incredible thanks to Scott Gooch for setting this up. We are in the undisclosed location green room of the Loud American Roadhouse here in Sturgis, South Dakota. When this airs, it will be over, but whether you like it or not, the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally is happening right now. So my thanks to the staff at the Loud American Roadhouse for letting us do this. Instead of advertising coffee today, since it's here, we didn't plan this, but Jack Daniels reminds you to drink responsibly. So I have a member of the Eskimo Brothers, Mr. Mark Robertson.
Yes, sir.
And this is a departure in more ways than one, and among them that I'm going in completely cold. I know almost nothing about.
Well, that's fine.
So why don't
Mutual.
you? I'm Matt.
Hey,
I mentioned that. That's
You
really
did.
all you need to know about
Okay,
me.
good.
Why don't you just tell us about you with emphasis on your musical journey?
Well, I've been playing most of my life.
Okay.
And, I've been playing professionally since about '92 is when I quit my job.
Oh,
And but I've been in bands since way before that.
All right.
And I had a lot of good luck with toured with some really good people, and Robert Plant, Tim McGraw, and
oh my.
Black Keys, Flaming Lips, Reverend Gordon Pete, and for 14 years I started out doing a lot of contemporary Christian music.
Okay.
A fellow named Rich Mullins, who was amazing, and then but I also did a lot of punk rock and a lot of
All right.
crazy hillbilly music and stuff like that, and did about 14 years in a band called the legendary Shack Shakers, which did real well for quite a while, and somehow through that I became friends with David Graham, Eskimo Brothers. He really just needed somebody to fill in here and there.
Right.
And I was touring a lot with my other band anyway, so when we could do it, we hooked up, and we had one whole week where we worked, our schedules lined up, and they happened to have a ton of gigs, I happened to have the week free, and they darn near killed me because I was used to doing really energetic 1 hour shows. They do really energetic 4 hour shows.
Oh my. Yeah.
So my first week with them almost killed me. And now we've done every inch of the country. I've been in the band going on 7 years, I think.
Okay.
And I've produced the last 2 studio records, played on those,
For the Eskimo Brothers.
for the Eskimo Brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, I've produced a fair amount. It's kind of one of my interests.
Okay. So tell us about your first bass guitar.
It was a Fender Music Master. I traded a guitar for it,
Okay.
and it's too like I'm 6'4", so it was like a little short scale bass. And I saw pictures of my first ever gig. And I was playing that bass. Oh, that looks ridiculous. It was too small. So I immediately saved up some money and I bought a Gibson G3. It's called.
Okay.
Big old bass.
Right.
They're not thick, but the body's huge.
Right.
I thought this looks good on me. I like this, and I thought it sounded great. And but way back then, I was into kind of that more aggressive sound, like Chris Squire from Yes, or
Right.
John Wetton from King Crimson. And that had that sound. It was really cool. I still am on the lookout for the right G3. They're not super common,
Right.
so I'm on the lookout for one. Still, one of these days, I'll find the right one at the right price.
You may have overheard someone apologizing. The staff here at the Loud American are working their hardest, and we do not mind, man. So in the beginning of these punk bands in California, I imagine I'm going to get super technical, and I apologize. You were playing mostly ones.
Depends on the band, I had this kind of double life, 'cause I'm at the right age to be a punk rock kid,
Right.
and I loved it. But I also, my original classical guitar teacher,
Oh, sure.
he was very into progressive rock and real artsy, complicated stuff.
Thanks, Dad.
So I was in a
Thank
band,
you.
I was in both worlds, which was peculiar. But the nice thing about the progressive rock thing when I was a kid is you have no choice but to practice your butt off.
Right.
Because it's difficult music. And the stuff that this guy was writing the most was incredibly difficult, and he wrote it all out. You had to basically practice a week just to do 20 seconds of the tune.
Right.
And then you add another 10 until you got a tune. And it was great for me, but I also kind of just like bashing out stuff too.
Right.
Like, well, I had a real affection for those ultra minimal bands like the Ramones or the Cramps.
Right.
And but I love King Crimson, and I love, kind of weird artsy stuff. Then there's really is a lot of music that's somewhere in the middle of those two.
Yeah.
It's artsy, but it's kind of raw and weird. And to this minute, I have a little band at home for fun that's in that kind of band.
Right. Sure. But there goes my attempt to frame the narrative of this one-string punk rock bassist moving to Chicago and finding he's in a much deeper pond. You had some technical prowess.
I did by then, yeah. I think I was a real player by the time I moved there.
Good for you, buddy. Had you ever played like walking blues bass at that point? Yeah.
No, not well. Not well. I mean, I was a pro bass player by the time I moved there. And because I studied my butt off. It's all I've ever wanted to do my whole life. So I studied like crazy. And upright is what got me learning to walk. You start listening to, when I was a kid, Ron Carter was a big influence, upright player, jazz guy. But I couldn't play like that.
Right.
And I never needed to play like that. But then when I got into the scene doing jump blues and doing rockabilly, western swing, these guys are walking a mile a minute, So on upright, I started walking like crazy. And started to develop a sound. And now even when I play electric, it's very much more influenced by my years since I got into upright, of walking through the changes and just keeping a sort of moving pattern going. And it helps, Eskimo Brothers are kind of like rock and roll, country. We love punk rock, but we don't play very much punk rock.
Sure.
We tend to stick to kind of more traditional.
Right.
I guess, we love stuff like Merle Haggard and George Jones.
Sure.
When I heard Ron Carter when I was a young kid, like maybe 15, 14, whatever it was, I always thought, I won't consider myself a real bass player until I can play both.
Okay.
But it's not like anybody was asking.
Right.
I didn't know anybody who needed one.
Right. And you didn't need a Dodge van as long as you didn't have an upright bass.
Correct. Yeah, I've needed a large vehicle ever since. But I got offered a gig with Rich Mullins, contemporary Christian artist, super, super nice guy. And he said, somebody in the band recommended me. And he said, I don't know you, but so-and-so says you're good. He called me, it was nice. He goes, you gotta play upright on 3 songs. Do you play upright? And I said, how far off is the tour? He said, 2.5 months. All right, I play upright then.
That's a pro right there.
Well, it was painful, but that same exact day, I conned my girlfriend at the time into like, I didn't have enough money to buy an upright. I had to finance one. I had to have my poor girlfriend co-sign for it.
And this is why we do this show, right? Keep going.
Yeah. So we went that day. I happened to know a good shop because I'd been hanging out in the rockabilly scene in Chicago. And there was this guy, Jimmy Sutton, still one of the best players on the planet. He plays for a fellow named J.D. McPherson these days, who's quite good. He's a great player. Anyway, when I keep watching him, like, how does he do that? And I just bought one, and then I just practiced and bled and hurt and for a long time, and I got it to where I wouldn't say I could play upright. I would say I could play the 3 songs he asked me to play.
Sure, right. There's a big difference. Yeah.
So there was one. The next thing I know with him, I'm bringing out 3 upright basses because he had gospel stuff. He liked old time gospel, so I bring a gut string so I could slap. Then he liked real folky kind of I don't know what you'd say, real folky kind of bass. So I'd play a different upright with steel strings. And then I have one of them weird electric uprights, look like a boat paddle, horrible things. But it sounded great with a bow.
Oh, okay.
And you could run it through the amp, and
Sure.
the sound guy could deal with it better.
Right.
So for all the art, and I had to learn how to play with a bow there. And that happened
yeah,
too.
sure.
That's a whole other world of
Right.
pain. And I'm not any good at it, but again, give me a song to learn and I can.
Right.
But it just doesn't come up in my world to have to also whip out
Right.
a bow.
If you start the show at 8, maybe at 10:30 you can get out the one and play with the bow.
That's exactly.
So you at this point you've got 3. Have we paid the girlfriend back for the first
Oh
one?
yeah,
Oh, good.
she just co-signed for the loan. I paid off the loan.
Oh, good.
And I'm still friends with that girl, so it worked out.
Well,
you
hey.
know. I started getting sponsored by this company in California called King Double Bass, who later became a company called Blast Cult.
Okay.
And I still play a Blast Cult live.
Okay.
And I've had the same one for this one. They've made me about 6, 7 basses. This one I've had for about at least 10 years. It's been all over the world.
Wow.
I don't rip basses when I go to Europe or
Right.
whatever. I just like fly mine. I just like mine.
Right.
You know, it's not that it's so special. It's just mine.
It's just yours. That's what this show is all about. Right?
Well, I know it's not going to feed back.
Right.
I know it's a tough bass. It's
Right.
never broken. Despite the effort of a lot of people, it's never quite broken. You know, it holds together. It's just a neat bass, you know.
Right.
And then I have a recording bass at home, which is a 1948 Epiphone B4 is the model. And I always wanted that very specific bass because this will maybe sound dumb, but I think the best slap upright sound in the world recorded
Right.
is still Bill Haley and the Comets and a guy named Marshall Little.
I agree with you. And
Marshall
we
Little.
love dumb theories on this show, by the way, so give it
Man,
a
there's stuff that maybe I'm more impressed by, but there's his bass sound, his pocket,
Right.
his tone. It's undeniably as good as it gets. So I just wanted that sound. I thought, well, maybe if I get that bass.
Mm-hmm.
So it just so happened a buddy of mine knew I was on the lookout for one. And he said, dude, I found a 48 B4 in Milwaukee for a pretty good price.
Mm-hmm.
And man, can you throw it in the truck and bring it home?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll send you some money. And so that's been my recording bass. I use it on the last 2 Eskimo Brothers records.
Oh yeah, cool.
And in fact, the last Eskimo Brothers, that's probably my favorite upright sound I've ever been able to get. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, maybe because we're just a trio.
Right.
And David and I have gotten pretty good at carving our sound around each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're out each other's way, give each guy the space they need.
Right.
But yeah, it's a great bass. I like it.
So bring us to the last topic. Are we getting close?
Yeah, we probably better cut them pretty short because if you do everyone at a half hour, they're not going to be on stage before you're done.
But tell us about the pickup and the amplifier that you're using on stage.
The pickup is also a blast called piezo. Is a piezo pickup.
Okay.
And it squeezes into the bridge,
Okay.
so it's very sensitive to vibration.
Sure.
I think for upright, it's just the most realistic sound you can get is a piezo pickup, and I run it. I've gone through a lot of stuff. I mean, I build my own speaker cabinets. I'm really kind of fussy about that.
Yeah.
And I'm endorsed by Mesa Boogie for amplifiers, but on this run I'm using a Fender just for weird reasons. But the secret thing is there's a really nice high-end company called Grace Designs, and I use their preamps.
Okay.
And that really helps the upright a lot.
Okay.
And I think it gives the front of house guy a good signal.
Sure.
And all that.
Do you have to stuff the body of the bass at all?
I choose to. I don't have to. It won't feed back.
Really?
I think it sounds a little better if you put a little foam in the F-holes. I personally,
Right.
because it's a big hollow thing.
Right.
Sound goes in as well as out.
Right.
So I swear I think it sounds just a little tighter
Right.
and a little nicer. There's some expense to that.
Right.
It kills some sustain, but I don't really want that much
Sure.
sustain anyway.
Well, in the early days, we got away from the hollow bodies because they fed back
Yeah.
at the ridiculous gain
Yeah.
stages we were using, and now some of us are going back to the hollow
Sure.
bodies. Remember my sponsorship with Trask-Back LLC, and who says, Rich Mullen says, change your strings. Thank you, Mark. And thank you for watching.